I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Approval of minutes. The regular board meeting of November 15th.
I'll move we accept the minute as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's absent, so we don't need to. Approval of vouchers.
All right, general fund, $46,159.31. The water fund, $32,604.32. Sewer fund, $41,019.76. And the capital fund, $63,454.73, and they've all been audited and approved, so I make a motion to approve them, I guess.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to talk about this passenger or not?
There's only one on there that's substantial.
Well, just, Chuck, this Henderson, basically, that's closing out the contract on the phase 2 on the sewer plant. That $50,929.73 of the $63,000 capital is basically the final payment to Henderson for that project. That's what made the capital so high this month. Phase 2 wastewater treatment plant upgrades. If you look on your agenda, it's got Ecologic Systems, change order 1. That's nothing to do with the sewer system. It's in the wrong spot. It's supposed to be groundwater. We'll get to that next. So I think we're good on the phase 2, unless you guys got something you want to bring up.
No, we're just working on closeout documents with the contractors right now. Just getting all the O&M manuals, as-built, everything. So, yeah, just wrapping everything up.
And hopefully after the first year, we can take it to long-term bonding and be done with it. Groundwater well development project. That's pretty much wrapped up too, unless you.
Yeah, same thing on that project as well, except for this Ecologic work that we have this change order for. This is a no-cost change order that EFC had requested just to include wage rates and the EFC terms and conditions into Ecologic's contract. It's just a housekeeping item, basically.
Kevin, I got a quick question I forgot to ask you earlier, and now that he brought it up. Has Manford been paid?
Not in full yet.
Okay.
No, their engaged money is still.
Okay.
Still being held.
Because I did get a call from, or got a message from Manford, Charlie, and
Okay.
I called him back, but he hasn't called me back. So
Yes.
I figured it's probably that's what it was.
I had it earlier.
He's looking to get.
It might be. We're still waiting on. He's giving us some of the as-bills. We're still waiting on some more parts of the as-bills and a couple of manuals, I think. And it's some pretty minor stuff, but yeah.
Well, basically, the change order and the contract price is we need a motion to make EFC happy because money was coming out of the contingency fund to pay for the upgrades at the pump station down here and at the water tank. And we put that as part of the groundwater project. EFC was fine with it, but they wanted to see an official change order, so that's why we're asking for a motion to accept this change order for $76,560. And that's coming out of the 100,000 contingency.
Joe, this is a no-cost change order. You already signed an
We've already
agreement
signed, yeah.
with Ecologics for that price. This change order is just like a housekeeping change order to include some items EFC wanted, the wage rates and the terms and conditions.
Yeah, I think you approved the contract last month, just to clean up the agreement.
Anybody have any questions on that?
I'll make a motion that we approve this change order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else, guys?
We haven't heard anything on phase 3 of the wastewater. We submitted that last summer, we should be hearing.
I keep hoping there's gonna be some grants coming out, but
Yeah, it's.
usually this time of year they do.
It is the season, right?
So it's like early January, they said we should hear. There's not an official date yet,
Oh.
but, yeah.
Because we're also looking for the 10 million for the DRI project too.
They haven't announced that yet either, right?
What's that?
They haven't announced that?
No,
have they?
no either. And sometimes that's about,
Usually it's by now.
yeah. So the other governor, he used to like to do it just before Christmas, like he was giving out big Christmas gifts. Street lighting LED conversion program, that's getting a little bit, basically I was back and forth with New York Power Authority this week. They're telling me they're gonna try and get these new, the only thing we're lacking is putting up the last 2 lights, the new lights that we want. We have all the equipment, everything's sitting right here in our DPW garage, just waiting to be installed. And I told them enough was enough because we've been working on this project since 2018. They're holding up because there's 2 other municipalities around us that have not got approval from National Grid to install lights on their poles yet. We've had our approval since last April. So, and they did tell me they would try and get us taken care of right after the first of the year. So we'll see. But it's starting to get a little frustrating with them guys. Makes me wonder if I ever want to do anything with New York Power Authority in the future. Zoning changes, anything more on that, Tim?
No, no movement there.
Those were those changes we had last month there.
I mean, the paper that I handed out last month on the handicap ramp exceptions, I think that's a good, that's a good,
I mean,
I think we should wait.
I think we should go with this myself.
I do too, but wait until we got everything so we can do it all at once.
This was handed out last month, but I just, that's also dealing with definition of a driveway also. But basically all that's, it's gonna do, it's gonna make it easier for people that do have somebody that's handicapped and they need a temporary ramp. They're still gonna have to get permits, but they're not gonna have to go through quite as many hoops. I mean, okay, new business. Craft surcharges. Water for November was nothing, 0. Sewer surcharges for November were 0. We don't have to do anything there. Budget amendments, general water and sewer funds. Need a motion to approve them.
I'll make the motion to approve the fund.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, we got some board appointments to make. Municipal board. Dorothy Duflo's been on the board for many, many years, and her term was up and she decided she'd like to retire. I thank her for all her hard work over the years. Mark Taball is our alternate, and Mark would like to move up, so I'd like to appoint Mark to fill Dorothy's spot as a municipal board member, and his term would run through 12/31/28.
I'll make the motion, Mark Mayor.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then we're gonna need an alternate for, take Mark's place. And so Dennis Bishop would step in as an alternate, and he would fill out Mark's term, which would end 12/31/24.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Housing Authority Board appointment. Had a member on the Housing Board resigned, and the only reason she resigned was she's taken a job with Snowbelt. so she was afraid it might be conflict of interest. So I'd like to appoint Corey Smith to finish out her term, which would run through March 31st of 2028.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Brings us down to the fiscal year 2022-23. Do you want to say anything about that, Pam? I know, boy, that was an awful lot of work for you. It's 77 pages long.
Well, that was the annual financial report. This report here is the one that the auditors did.
Oh, the audit, okay,
Yeah.
I got the wrong one here. Yeah.
So we would have to have a motion that you accepted this one.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, the report I'm thinking of, I think you just sent it out. No,
Yes.
Chemical bids. Do you want to say anything on that, Paul, or?
No, the bids were sent out. We basically had two people, or two companies, Slack Chemical, bid on everything. Holland Company did receive the award for the polyaluminum chloride. And you guys have them all in front of you. Just, do you need to accept the bids?
Just need a motion to accept it.
I'll make a motion, we accept those bids.
Second.
Second? Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Lewis County, basically, they're putting a TAP application in to help do some of their rails to trail. Paul and I met with them, and the first section that they're doing for this TAP application, it's going to be coming from 812 over behind the fairgrounds, and it wants to run down across to Bostwick, down across Trinity, Shady Ave, over as far as they're gonna put railings and everything on the trestle, fix that up, and it would end at Jackson Street. And they're looking for a letter of support from us. Paul put together a bunch of questions that we asked them, and basically, it's gonna be non-motorized, it's just walking trail back through there, and right now, it's pretty much all grown up vegetation and not very. But if they go in there and clean it up and do what they say they're gonna do, plant some new trees and whatnot, and straighten it up, it should be a nice area for people to walk in. And like I say, being non-motorized, shouldn't affect, and it's not, the location, it's not gonna be where it's gonna affect possibly only one resident, and that's down there where it comes out by Shady Ave near the co-op. The county trail group is supposed to be the ones that are supposed to do all the maintenance, trim all the trees. They haven't decided if it's gonna be a cross-country ski trail in the winter or if they're gonna keep it open for walking, and if they keep it open, they're gonna be the ones, county's gonna be the ones responsible for snow plowing it and everything, so.
Questions?
So basically, I didn't wanna give them a letter of support without the board
I
approval.
have questions. My first question is, do they own the land yet?
No,
My second
they're
question.
still waiting on that. They seem to think they're gonna end up with it.
My second question is, what you've all just said is fine. They want a written letter of support from us. I'd like a written letter from them stating what they said they're gonna do for us. In other words, we're gonna maintain it, we're going to do this, we're gonna do that, and
Well,
it's
we
not
do
gonna be
have-
motorized.
I don't have them with me here, but we do have plans that they put together that showed the width of the trail, where they were gonna have crossings and everything. We do have all that from them. All the way from Bostwick to Jackson.
So I personally won't vote for it. They don't own the land yet. I don't know how we support something where they don't even own the land, so that's pretty much all I'm gonna say.
Well, that's the thing I wondered myself, Dan, how they can even put in for this grant without owning the land, but that's the county, they do what they wanna do.
Now,
And be a little more specific, the trailhead will actually start down here on 812 with a big parking lot, so people can park there. I think their future expansion would be to go continue down the railroad tracks, but that would be the head of where you would start walking. And, you know, Joe and I talked with them quite a bit, had quite a few questions for them. They answered every question the way I think we wanted to hear. And I personally think it's a good idea. And if you look at that railroad bed right now, I mean, there's trees overgrown and it doesn't look good for the village of Lowville. Plus this gives somebody a place to walk. I mean, we all
It's
know
gonna
how
clean that
bad,
whole area up.
we know how bad
When
our
they
sidewalks
own the
are. What's that, Dan?
When they own the land.
But
Yep. But is a letter of support gonna hurt us right now?
no,
Just a question.
I don't see how it changes anything, whether they get the land or don't get the land.
That was for you, Dan.
We supporting that.
My first question is this a thing where we need the letter again today because this has been just dropped on us, number one? Number two, they don't own the land, like I've said. Number three, I like everything they've told you and Joe, Paul, but I'd like to see it in writing, because maybe this is unfair to say, but based on what Joe said a few minutes ago, you know, they do what they want to do, number one, and number two, talk can be cheap. So I'd like it in writing. So, you know, when a motion is made and it's seconded, at this point in time, I won't vote for it. And maybe next month, if things change, I would. So my vote tonight will be no.
Mr. Burrows, what's your opinion?
Well, you could, if you're looking for a letter of support, you could preface it with the village board understands the following, that the county will do the following things, and contingent upon the county acquiring ownership of the property, for those conditions, we support it. You could do it like that, it's a preface it, so it'd be contingent upon those matters being met. But again, you'd have to really memorialize, Mayor, what it is that you understood that the county was proposing.
And I would like to see that in writing again before I would vote in favor of it.
Well, we
Well,
can
that's
do
what
that.
I'm
We
saying.
can revise this with that in there, with those stipulations and bring it to the next month's meeting. Well, if that's the pleasure of the board.
That would be mine, but I'm one member.
No, that's a good point. You put it in the letter of support, then they can't deny they offer services.
And I will tell you that when that letter is done, I would want a separate letter stating that they acknowledge and accept as terms the right word to use, what you understood. Because if they said it, then they need to understand it.
We do have to have this back to them if we do it by the 27th.
Of this month?
Yes. Because they gotta
Yeah,
get,
go.
because they're on a deadline with a TAP grant.
And I want the acceptance letter back before the 27th.
What was that, Dan?
This happens time and time again. And in my remark, it's candid and straight like it's always been. Lack of planning on their part doesn't constitute an emergency on ours.
What's the board want to do?
Well, my opinion is, you two met with him, we did not, so, like Dan said, I guess we're not as educated about it as you and Paul, okay? Of course, we are the board, you're not. I personally don't have a problem with, you know, putting it right in, as Mr. Burrows said, putting some documentation right in there about them owning the land and other issues that we have. As long as they meet that criteria, I would be okay with sending the letter of support. That doesn't mean we have to support it down the road, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the letter of support would be non-binding on this.
Yes, exactly, that's what I'm saying. That's my opinion.
And if the letter of support were also based upon certain contingencies, if they weren't met, then obviously it would even carry less weight.
But, again, as Dan said, I would have to see that in the letter, you know, I mean, we still would have to. So I'm okay with it as long as, you know, I don't know how we proceed like that is all. When they're talking the 27th. Today's the 20th, right?
Yeah.
Is that something we can approve as long as, or do we have to have some special meeting or something?
Well, you could still approve, if a majority of the board were inclined, you could approve a letter of support to the county for the following project. And it's premised upon our understanding that the county will take ownership on or before such and such a date. And upon doing so, the county will undertake the following steps. With that in mind, it confirms the village board's support of that in principle. But you'd look to memorialize it with whatever those
Have
understandings
you
were.
seen this letter here?
No.
Is this something you could take and make those changes and send up to us?
If the board were inclined, I could take it tonight and have something to you tomorrow. I just haven't seen it. Is it in the packet? I guess it's here. You're awfully efficient.
Because basically, I didn't write this letter, I'll be honest with you, they wrote it.
Okay.
A lot of people do nowadays, if they want a letter of support, they'll go ahead and write it for you. You just sign it.
I've got, I guess, is this the text that they're looking at? Nothing other than that?
No, that was it.
I think
No?
it can be changed, that was just their sample.
Yeah. I mean, again, the village board could consider a resolution to authorize you as mayor to execute the letter, and then the resolution would be contingent upon. And it would be, I assume, the county taking ownership of the trail system on or before whatever date, further contingent upon whatever these assurances were that you received. You could enumerate them in a simple resolution. And if that resolution, if it was seconded and approved by a majority, then it would proceed. And you'd have the minutes that would reflect that. And you could then execute something like this.
Is that what you want to do?
Fine.
I'll still vote no, but whatever. I think the county needs to step up and do more, and again, we're on the 20th, and this all has to happen by the 27th. I'm just tired of that. That way, the gun's held to your head, you gotta say yes. You can't, there's no time element. I just don't like it.
Did they give us a date when they thought any of this might have start? It was 26, wasn't it?
2026.
Oh, yeah.
Be different if it was binding contract, but it's not.
we can just tell them we're not willing to give them a letter of support until they own the land.
That sounds like that's where we're at.
I'd support, come back to us after you have a title to the land.
Well, my concern isn't.
Why would
title to the
anybody
land.
give out a grant when the land is
That's something
owned?
different, Dan, that you got. We'll get to that.
Yeah, there's a whole different set of rules for that. I'm not even
Us anyway.
concerned about them owning the property. My concern is who's going to be responsible for it after it's created.
They told us.
And again, the county had said, but unless we see that
In writing.
in writing, yeah, they said it until, oh, but it's your town.
But again, this isn't a binding contract or anything, it's just a.
Well, like I said, I don't have a problem with the letter, because we can always forward support later
Exactly
if
what I said.
what we think was going to happen isn't happening. So I don't have a problem with the letter.
Well, I'm not gonna make a motion. If somebody else wants to make it, that's fine. I'm not gonna make the motion. Plain and
Neither am
simple.
I.
Plain and simple. That's my thought.
Well, I'll make the motion.
What time out? Being that he's in the Rails to Trails and is part of the program, can he be involved in making the motion or voting on it, Attorney Burrows?
What do you mean he's in the rails trail?
The Rails to Trails program is set up where his business will get a partial grant. So what
How
you
do
would
you figure that, Dan?
Are you or are you not in the application for the DRG? The DRI?
That's totally different from my business. Rails to Trails.
But the Rails to Trails is in that.
Whatever, I'll recuse myself. If that's what our attorney says.
I mean, you catch me kind of flat-footed here. Take a look at it closer to give you a definitive opinion.
I just don't think this is as big a deal as you're making it, Dan, because it's not a binding contract. It's only a letter of support for them to get this TAP grant. We can pull our support later, as far as I'm concerned, if things don't go the way we want them to. That's the leverage we have. This is just a letter of support. I think we're making too big a deal out of it. That's just me.
I think it would have been nice if they had put everything in writing. And I think, again, we can discuss whether it's a big deal or not. But I think it is a big deal, and on the 20th of December, we've got to make a decision for them to have something by the 27th. And this isn't the first time this has happened, and it isn't the second time it has happened. And it continues. And I didn't say it, Mr. Mayor said it a few minutes ago. And I would agree with the statement. They do whatever they want. So, again, I'm not going to make the motion.
Did you excuse yourself, or did you make that motion?
Well, I don't know if I can or not, put it that way, from my accusation on the other end of the table, so.
I'd say, worst case scenario, we table it till we get more information from them. It doesn't sound like only a couple in favor of it.
Well, I'm not against it, but I'm not making the motion. I don't want it on record that I was, because I don't like the rail to trail thing to start with. And that's a whole other can of worms to open up.
It is, Chuck, but I think, to me, this is a benefit to the village.
And I
That's
understand
the only
that.
reason why I'm for it.
And I
Just
understand
a
that.
walking trail.
Yep, I understand that, but I'm against the rails to trail thing because the current group of legislators are not going with what their constituents want, and that's their job, and they're not doing it, plain and simple. I mean, they got
Everything's
sick.
happening right before January 1st.
What's that, Dan?
And everything's happening right before January 1st. Did you notice the committee that they've appointed?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a real.
Nobody from outside.
Yeah. Everybody within, inside the county walls, pretty much.
I mean, if the plans that Paul had, and I've seen them, if that was it, that would be fine. It's got a nice trailhead down there, which is a nice parking area, and it goes right up through the village, that's fine. But that's just the start of the whole shooting match. I believe, unless I'm wrong in stating that.
Yeah, they got 30 miles they're gonna end up doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into this. Damn it.
I could be looking at it wrong too. I'm for the part of the village. I don't know where that falls in with the DRI when they've got all these plans with redoing Forest Ave and all that. How does that fit into it? You know, they're, like Dan said, they're throwing this stuff at us.
That's the issue.
Right. I mean, it doesn't say how.
Gotta have it by the 27th, so we get it on the 20th. In September, they had something on August 30th, but we get it on September, like the 17th, the day before the meeting, because it had to be done then. But from the 30th to the 18th, we didn't get it.
I said to Paul yesterday, I believe it was, when I saw the plans, there's a spur of the railroad right down behind the farmers co-op buildings.
They're gonna actually own it.
Who is?
The county's gonna own that when they get
So
done.
that will
They're
be
buying
taken
all
out
that.
also, I just found that out today. Yes.
Which is fine, but I just didn't know how that Trottier guy figured into this. When if there's one set of tracks that go nowhere left when they take the other tracks out, and he's got rail cars on there. We already had to pay how much was it to put the tracks back across Shady Ave? $70,000?
For both of them.
Right. So I mean,
Well, I kinda got the impression from Ryan Touche the other day that this Trottier guy, that's gonna go away. So if they do any rails to trails with the locomotive or rail cars, it's gonna be like from Cronin way, not coming towards Lowville. But there's too many unanswered questions. I think we just might as well move on.
Agreed.
I agree.
Is that okay with everybody? We won't act on that. Non-competitive promotional exam, police chief. Basically what that's about is civil service has come back to us and said that the board should make a motion to ask civil service to do a non-competitive promotional exam for police chief.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second. What are they saying?
Yeah, what are they saying?
Exam?
No, they're saying that he doesn't have to compete with somebody else taking the exam.
So even if he weren't top 3, as long as he passes it, he's okay?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm for that. That's a change.
There's 2 different exams, there's competitive and not.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Somebody make the motion.
I did.
I'll second.
Any other questions on that? Okay.
Get a vote on that.
not a vote.
We're good to go?
Then we gotta have a vote on it.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Auctions International, we need to approve those bids so they can dispose of the 2 vehicles.
I'll make a motion, we approve of that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, correspondence. What do you get the, basically that's the letter we got from Environmental Protection Grant Fund for parks. Telling us we got $500,000 to work on Veterans Park. Sunshine Jenkins is up Alex Bay Way, I think at Quaden Parks. She's the one that's going to be in charge of things for our area. And she basically sent us an email and told us we'd be getting a letter, which we have. And as far as the contract goes with the state, she said it would probably be the end of January, first start of February before we saw it. And she would be in touch and come meet with us and our engineers to get things rolling. Any questions on that? Okay, officer and committee reports. Village attorney, anything?
Only to mention at the last meeting, NYMER had suggested that the contract between the village and the town and the fire department have language in it regarding indemnification. I have just a simple paragraph. Pass one for you, pass it down, that you might consider adding in the contract. And essentially what NYMER was alluding to was if something happens that the fire department, its officers, employees, agents, if they're negligent in some respect, if that opens the door to litigation, that they're responsible for their own actions. And then with that, the request was that their insurance should also name the village as an additional insured. So that's the proposed language that you might consider adding to the contract that addresses that topic.
Would this go into, like we do contracts with Watson and Town of Lowville? You would have to go into their contracts?
I would encourage you to consider adding it to any of your contracts. Now, what I did though was because I would expect the town would want the same thing. So I just had that drafted that the town and the village would be protected. Now, the only other variation on that is this. So your contract requires the fire department to have insurance, and the contract requires that the town be listed as an additional insured. The only other change would be you'd want that clause to indicate that the village is also listed as an additional insured. So if you have the provision like that, and then if you have the language on the insurance policy, I think you're going to be not only protected, but that's what NYMER's looking for. But that really would be it for your consideration at some point.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense if the town has a listing as an additional insured.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
I never caught that.
That's the contract. It just calls for the town to be listed as an additional insured. It doesn't cost the fire department any more to do that at all. It just makes sure you've got the protection as well. And it goes on to indicate that as long as they've got that insurance protection, that satisfies this provision. So it's of no additional cost.
And we should do the same for the fire department.
I would think you would.
And if we haven't, we need to look at we should look at our policy to make sure that we've got them listed.
But that's the only thing of consequence, Mr. Mayor.
It's good for
Now,
everybody.
the contracts are already out now, so this would be something we had next year?
We keep doing it that way.
Well, you could, exactly, you could consider this to be a simple amendment. Again, the provision, the significance is it doesn't cost any party any more. It probably is what's intended to begin with. And the key thing is everybody's protected with the insurance policies as long as the insurance policy is then updated so the binder reflects that the village is also listed as an additional insured, and then you're protected. So I don't think you're going to run into any resistance with something like that.
Do you understand that, Joe?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Somewhat, but.
I can give you a copy.
Okay, so.
What it basically amounts to is we've got, I would like to say, like we've got a puzzle,
Right.
and there's a couple pieces that are missing that may not amount to anything, but in the event of an issue, we've got you covered as an additional insured, and you've got us covered.
Right.
And I don't even know if you're covered with our policy, but we need to look at that too. That's all it is. It's just like if you were running a business and I was coming in to do work, your insurance company would say, Dan, we want you to provide Joe with a policy that shows that he has a certificate of insurance, through a certificate of insurance. That's what it is.
Yeah, I think we actually have, all of you listed, the town, all the towns and the village, I think, is listed in our policy already, I think.
Okay?
I don't know
I
that for sure,
suspect
but I
that's
think it
true.
is.
And then it becomes a non-issue.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure the same thing for you.
Yeah.
And again, that general topic was flagged when NYMER performed a survey of different contracts.
And they never asked to look at your policy, so you're right, very well could be in there.
I'm
But
fairly certain it was, because when we had the issue, that was one of the things Montague wanted to see was,
Yeah.
and I think when they sent us out, they sent us one for each town that.
And maybe that's what was
we
picked up,
contract with.
maybe by putting the town on, somebody thought, oh, we got the town and the village covered.
Yeah.
They need to be named exclusively.
If you really think of it, it doesn't really change the rights and responsibilities of the parties. it just stops the insurance carriers from fighting amongst themselves over who's primary and who's secondary if something happens, there's a claim.
Is that it?
That's it.
I don't have anything at this point. Clerk treasurer?
Just what was mentioned earlier, the annual financial report was submitted to the comptroller's office this week.
Chief of police?
Just a couple things. We're working on some funding through Stop DWI to get the lettering covered on the new car. It's like $1,100. Emergency management is working on covering a new radio for the car, which that's $2,700. So hopefully that we can get those covered. We've met with the school 3 different times on school safety meetings. Just working with them basically on trying to make it safer, drop off, pick up, crossing guards. And then on the 27th and 28th, next week on Christmas break, we're doing walkthroughs with all of our guys, state police, sheriffs, probation, court security. So we're just trying to work better and more often with those, with the school. So no lateral transfers were interested. So we're working with civil service to get someone hired, but that's time consuming and you're basically starting from scratch. So, but we're working with them to get a list together. So that's all.
Superintendent?
I don't have much. Our craft meter, which we received, we got probably 6 months, 8 months ago, has actually been installed at Craft. It's installed, it's not running yet. Once we do get the program and get it running, we should be able to monitor what's happening at Craft 24/7. We just had an issue over there with a water main break at Dennis Lee's driveway. And it'll give us a better handle on what's happening over there, so that's it.
Capital future planning?
We have nothing to report.
Personnel, I think we want an executive session to discuss personnel, right?
Correct. Or
Anything else
for
on
the
that?
purpose of hiring.
Yeah. Finance? Nothing special there? Lazen's Fire Department?
We had our meeting, Joe, I don't really have anything that we need to bring up, but if you do, go ahead.
We'll be supposed to be taking delivery of a new engine next week. It's coming a little quicker than we thought. They originally told us 3 months. It's been about a month and a half, so it's pretty good timing. We were able to secure some funding through New York State on that, so it gave us a much lower interest rate than any of the local funding that we were looking for, so that helped a lot. So that should be delivered next week. It probably won't be in service though for about a month, so it'll be there. We're going to train on it. Before we put it in service, we're going to make sure we know how to use it. So it's our frontline pumper, yeah. So our other frontline pumper, we did a trade-in value with it. So they're going to take the pumper that we currently use. It won't be an exact exchange, so we're going to overlap a little bit, which will help because that will allow that one to stay in service a little bit while we're training on the other one. So yeah, so that should be next week. The other thing we discussed last week, we're going to form a committee that hopefully is going to start looking at different recruiting things so that we can figure out how to recruit new people. Because like everyone, we're getting lower on members, and especially the interior guys is what we're looking for. Is some younger generation that's willing to put in the time and effort to go fight fire inside the building. On the plus side of that, I don't know how many of you saw, but New York State just recently passed a firefighter reimbursement law or something. I don't know what exactly it is, but basically, so anyone who takes the exterior class is going to get paid a certain amount of money by New York State. If they go on and take the interior class, they get paid an additional amount of money. So I'm hoping with that information in our committee, we're going to be able to come up with some good ideas next year to get the word out there that there is some need, and we definitely have ways to help if we can. But so I think that's all I got.
Joe, where's the new fire truck come from?
So it's a company right out of Albany is where we bought it. It's coming out of Georgia though, is where they, so the way this company works, the reason it was able to turn around so fast is they build stock units, and then sell it once it's produced. So it's not as customizable as a fully customized truck. So it's kind of we had to take it as is, but we went down and looked at it in Albany. And it had everything for the most part that we need, and we were able to add a few things which made it a little more convenient for us, but because of that the time frame was not. If we spec'd out the engine that we currently have, we did call the company we bought it from and said, hey, listen, tell us what that will be today. You have the specs, and it was a lot more money than even this truck that we purchased, and it was about a 3 to 4 year turnaround. So this one was, it filled our need at the time of need, and it's a little more basic of a truck, but that's not necessarily a bad thing in today's world, because there's less that can go wrong with it then. So.
Plus you might be able to fix it.
Right, and we might be able to fix it in-house without sending it out to an electrical engineer to assess what's going on. So.
Police department, anything there?
Just in a meeting with Chief Orton the other day, he and I think he forgot to say it there. Existing forfeiture funds that the DA had, she had bought some coats for the crossing guards and some cameras. And a few other things.
All the full-time guys and Jeff got new duty coats. Not this, but 3 crossing guards got new coats, and everyone got new digital cameras for the cars.
Planning board and zoning board, anything?
No meetings, nothing's come up.
Anything from the municipal board the other day?
Well, just one person came in that had a problem, hit a meter in his house, and the board checked it out, or the
DPW crew
checked
was
it out,
there
said,
quite a few times.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with the meter.
Town, they got a meeting tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
County, anything there?
They're having a year-end meeting, I think the 21st. That's all I got.
Recreation, winter skating, if everything goes right, should be open to the public December 23rd. We're hoping to make ice and have everything up and operational. Everybody's been hired, and the program's pretty much ready to go once there's ice on the skate out. Do you have anything for?
Yeah, just gonna say the next RECOG board meeting will be January 24th, and I'll let you know on the date or the location, because Denmark has a court meeting. We're originally gonna hold it there, so we gotta bump it. The infrastructure roundtable that we had on November 9th, we had 45 attendees that were at that. And then we've had meetings with BOCES about the water, wastewater operator certification for students coming out, and they've got the support of their heavy equipment classes both in down here at the Howard G. Sackett and the Bowling Tech Center. So they're going to be moving that, I think, forward to try to come up with like what a curriculum would look like, and we're going to meet again once they kind of have that put together. So they're all on board with doing that. So it looks like it should happen, I think. Also, at that infrastructure roundtable, I was talking with Kyle Wilbur from New York State Department of State, and he was interested. He said that they would like to fund like a half-day student activity to get students involved with local government. So we actually had a meeting today also related to that, and we're talking about trying to figure the best way to get students together for like a half-day event, or maybe even give them information prior, so that way they have some background, and then have a half-day event. But one of the things we pitched was having the students break out in groups or teams of 5, so like 4 board members, and then one being like the mayor or supervisor, and then they each maybe draw like out of a hat, and they either get a project or an issue, and then they got to try to work their way through it and solve it. And then we thought, well, maybe we could have, say, for instance, like if there were some local government officials that volunteer, they could act as a mentor to each of those teams. And then at the end, maybe at the end, we do a reenactment of some sort of issue or something, like an actual board meeting going through. and maybe even have some characters play different ends of the spectrum on an issue and how do you handle that, type thing. So we're still trying to hash it all out. Our first meeting was today with DOS, and we're going to meet again here in January just to see. And then we're trying to see how best to engage and get students involved. And we do not have a Fort Drum intern right now. We have gone to Fort Drum a couple times just asking about, if there's any interest out there. So far we have not heard any yet. Associate circuit rider position has been vacant for a little bit here, but we do have somebody that is interested. Her name's Amber Swan, and I believe that we'll be all set. So she's going to come, I think, next week to our office up at the Watertown, and we're going to have Chris Barboza, who was the associate before, kind of just walk through and how he did his reports and things, his experience doing it. So, and then she'll be starting in January. And then membership, Town of Watson is asked to join RACOG, so we'll be voting at that at the next RACOG board meeting also. And then comprehensive plans going on, we actually have two towns that have 2 villages each. So Town of Wilna, Carthage, DeFerrier are all looking at comp plans. We already started that. Town of Denmark, Copenhagen, and Carthage are all looking to do one together too. So we'll be busy with comp plans coming up. And other than that, I'll just mention the LED lighting. We met again with DOS today about closing out that local government efficiency grant and sat down with them as far as all the paperwork, because we got all the master recovery cost agreements that we had to get approval from every municipality so NIPA could give us those. So we got all those. So now we're going to the next step to trying to get that paperwork all finished out and get that sent in so we can get that completed. So, and that's what I got for you.
It'd be nice when that's done, because I think we get 61,000 once it's done.
Yeah, it's a
Good chunk of money.
Yeah.
All right, brings us down to public comment. Anybody have anything? Guess we need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
For what purpose?
I'm sorry?
For what purpose? Can you put that on the record?
Filling position.
For discussing the position and possibly filling a position.
Aye.